That's how you started, like, just you show up to one of the ciphers one day and you're like, this is me now.
This is I came straight with that Mac. Y'all already know I got that Mac tuck on, motherfucker.
You become like a blood trans, you know, like because I identify as blood now.
Hey man, walking with that limp dick though.
Is that one of their things that they say? I walk around with it. The limp
They call
dick.
it gun a dick, right? Because your gun's like in there, and girls thought she was touching on my dick, but it was the clip of the Glock.
Well, there's people in your family that talk like that, right?
I'm gonna fuck you up.
All men's clubs are just gay.
No, that's not racism. I'm just saying, like, there's people I've met in your family that talk like that, right?
No.
None?
Who? Who have you met in my family that talks like that?
Yeah.
None of your brothers?
No.
Okay, maybe not. Really?
Fucking coon?
You have some G's in your family?
No.
Wait, do you guys actually want to hear my first line for the podcast?
Yeah, start it.
All right, well, I was thinking podcasting is a lot like porn because everybody usually skips like the first, like couple minutes of it. You don't really need to see it. And nobody's parents are happy when they tell them that they start doing it. Dude, I've worked so
You're
hard.
right.
On that
was the funniest line you could have that you could have come up with.
Fuck, man. I was working on that all week. I thought that would have slapped.
If this is porn, I'm skipping the video. I don't like the threesome with the white guy and the fucking...
Okay, wait, you're off porn now, though, right? How long have you been off porn, though, for?
A month and a half.
Mm.
And how do you feel?
Free.
What, it had a hold on you before that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know, but like getting addicted to porn is like, it's like getting addicted to like candy. You know what I mean?
You better
like,
hurry up and curve it, because if not, you will end up with ED.
Or maybe you just want to keep fucking.
You can't. If you watch porn and like come excessively at a young age, it will ruin your brain to the point where when you're with a woman, you won't want anything else except for extreme penetration.
Did you come up with that?
No.
No, you didn't.
that's science.
I know.
That's just deep science. So you're on like a semen retention type vibe.
No, not at all. I just don't watch porn.
Right.
Right.
When I want to come, I usually just like contact a woman and then I'll do that. I don't usually masturbate anymore.
Is this podcast usually talking about cum right off the bat?
Oh, that's usually where we
Okay,
start.
all right.
And finish.
Well, aren't you the milk daddy?
That is true. That is true.
Or is that you?
No, I'm milk daddy for sure. This guy's milk uncle.
Okay. Oh, way worse. Way worse. No one says I want to call you uncle in the bedroom.
Nobody. So how's your porn habits these days?
Getting better. Yeah, getting better.
Are you
for
still
sure.
on the
Getting
BBW?
better, like you're getting...
What?
Still on the cuckold BBW?
Cuckold BBW. I'm like I guess a week or two off. You know, a buddy of mine just started reading all about it, and he's not shutting the fuck up about all of these retention and all this stuff. It's the health and everything, you know. So he was like, just go for a week, and we're like, all right, I'm almost at a week now. I don't notice a difference. I don't really notice a difference.
I know.
When I am like having sex or anything, like, you know, before, like if I was watching a lot of porn or not. Sometimes I'll stop when I'm seeing someone that I really like.
Yeah.
Like I'll just like be like, oh, okay, like this person probably is not like wanting a big like porn guy. Like
You ever watch porn with a chick?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah. But there would be times where it'd be like you start going out on a date with someone, you're like, you're great. Like I'd like to see you for a long time. I'll just stop now, and now it'll get.
Not all girls love
better.
it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also, I think you're right in terms of like it also can just escalate your like what you kind of need.
Desires.
Like you just are like you just got to get like crazier and crazier, and so it's probably a good thing to if you're like seeing people on the regular to not be
Teen.
You know. The weirdest, well, yeah, some of the categories, I don't know, there's, as I'm starting to get like older too, it's getting weird, like some of these things are starting to like get kind of weird, where you'll see like, I don't know, the titles, and like you're just like, fuck, that's just like,
What's your opinion
You
on like?
never thought about fucking your stepmom?
yeah, I mean, there's always been that stuff, but when you get older, there's like, when it's like 18 and you're like, I wouldn't fuck an 18-year-old in real life.
Yeah.
You know, like right now.
Why?
And I feel
Because I think that's like, I don't know, not who I'm looking to fuck right now. Like,
Dude, I know this black chick, she's 18,
yeah.
and she looks like she's fucking like 25.
Okay. Yeah, that's what all creeps say too, you know? Bro, she's actually really mature for her age. She's actually really mature.
Hey, man.
yeah, I feel like
You know what I mean,
When they
though?
call you
Like,
daddy,
I was in Japan recently, and in Tokyo, they've got all these... What?
Jesus Christ.
Trying to justify your 18-year-old crush. She's sitting in the corner. You're like, no, she's actually really good. I don't know. In Japan, they've got women out on the street corners where you can like that you can go like out for dates with. They're not like prostitutes, but they're kind of like date
the
prostitutes.
girlfriend experience.
Yeah, exactly. And you see these girls, and they're all like, I don't know. It's very like, obviously it's a very Japanese thing, but it's the Japanese like schoolgirl look. And I think maybe when I was like in my teens or something, that, you know, is like, okay, I can like,
Anime.
that's pretty. But now I look, I'm just like, that's such a strange, like, I don't know, a little Epstein kind of vibe of just
Super
like,
Epstein
I'm
vibe.
trying to like make you look the youngest legally possible, is like, I don't know. It's not my vibe. I've always liked a little bit older girls. Like, I've never been into younger girls. I've never actually fucked a teen, because I never
Wow.
fucked when I was in high school. So I've never fucked a teenager.
Wow. Holy shit, man. You covered
I've
all the
never
bases.
fucked a teenager.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah. So like, it's never, you know, trying to like go backwards now. I'm like, I don't know. I can't imagine that that's the best, you know, people to be fucking, because they don't know what they're doing.
I
And if
lost
they
my
do, that's also
virginity
kind of
at
gross.
13.
Yeah, but you're black though, so you talk to some black guys, they're like, I was 9 years old. You're like, cool, that's assault, but you know,
I cried after.
yeah, probably.
Tears of joy?
No regret.
Oh, it was regret. Okay,
Yeah,
that's dark.
well, it's pretty dark, but yeah, no, 13's too young, I think.
Yeah, it was like around the time 2012 that movie came out, when the world was gonna end and everyone was talking about, or no, 2010 or 2012, yeah. And then like we were just kissing, and it was the first time I like made out with a chick, and then I just looked at her and said, I want to have sex, and then she was like, okay, and then we had sex, and then I thought the world was gonna end, that's why I wanted to do it.
Right.
And then the world never ended.
Well,
and
thank
stuff,
God you
but-
did, because it stopped the end of the world.
Yeah.
God was like, I need these two 13-year-olds to fuck, or
She
I'm
was
going to end it
18.
all.
She was 18.
She was 18?
Yeah.
Then you were raped. Sorry, friend.
No, she was hot.
No, you were still raped, though.
Does that
it
count?
doesn't. Yeah, definitely.
I initiated.
No, it counts as rape, but does it count as sex? Like, did you get
Yeah,
fucked?
I wouldn't say your
She
virginity
rode
was
me,
took. I would
but
say you
like,
got molested,
I don't
bro.
think I was like. I don't think I was too dominant. Like I was.
Like, I'm not.
definitely, like,
I'm not counting losing my virginity at 4, dog. It's like that's a different situation, you know. Like
As I came out of my mom's pussy, I was,
rolling weed
I was
on my
having
book?
sex.
13. 13 is really young, but also I get it. Like, there's you know, different places and where you grow up. I don't know. I just,
Different strokes for different folks.
yeah. I was 18. I was in university, so like, you know.
And
it
she was older, right? 'Cause-
She was a couple
yeah.
years older, and she had worn lingerie under our first date. I was like a nice boy, took her out on a nice date, and then we got back and she was wearing lingerie, and I was like, oh, so this was in the like, regardless of if we went to Old Spaghetti Factory or not, we were doing this. I could have skipped the $70 fucking meal here. Just, you know, and it was not good. You know, it's, you know, your first time, whatever. It was whatever. But hey, you know, saw Beetlejuice and went to Old Spaghetti Factory.
Oh, you did a dinner and a movie.
Yeah,
Wow.
Beetlejuice. Come on now, how are you not gonna after he takes you to Beetlejuice?
Right?
You know, say it 3 times and I come. You know?
Wait, how the fuck were you watching Beetlejuice?
At the theater. It was near Halloween, so it was they were playing it at the theaters.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say you're 18 in like 1997. Like, what
okay,
the fuck?
I had my own studio little apartment on Abbott and Hastings. I had a neon facial waxing neon sign. It was before I owned one. All this. I'm in school. That was the first thing that I had in my apartment. I had satin sheets, the nice like Scarface motif in the place. It's this rinky dink fucking. You see the kitchen and you know those little studio fucking micro suites in Hastings and
bed is in the oven.
The bed is in the oven, exactly. And I was in my like film photography art phase. So right after we were done, she's wearing a hoodie of mine in the lingerie, and I got like a film photo of her, and like I still am like that's like the coolest photo I think I've ever taken because like what a memory to just be like that's a cool night, you know,
frame it.
Right?
But anyways, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Soul here. We got Trewth in the cut. And who are you and why are you here?
I'm Austin. I own the MOTN, and we've all known each other for a good long time. I like to talk to my friends.
Was
it's
it
good to
3
see you
years
guys.
now?
Almost, yeah. 2 years. About 2 years.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, because it was about a year, almost a little less than a year when we all met. I met you sooner, but once we all started to get going together.
Yeah, I think the first time that I guess I did meet you in person, but then the first time we had that talk on the phone, I was actually like here at this house, like sitting on the stair sets while Ghetto was editing one of the ciphers.
Oh, yeah.
Weird. I just remembered that moment right now. But yeah, that was funny, like when we were talking about having the cipher at the MOTN. But yeah, that was 2 years ago. It was crazy, man. But you just came up on the 3-year anniversary.
We did,
of
yeah.
the MOTN.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. How was you had a show for that, right? Commemorating?
It wasn't really like a commemorative show. I just went to our weekly show.
Nice.
We started about a month or two ago, and it was my first time back since I've been traveling. I've been gone for about 6 months now from the space, so it was nice to just kind of go and get to like fall in love again with the product that like I kind of helped, made,
Right.
which was like definitely, it had been taking a long time to kind of. I needed to take some time away so that I could kind of refine that love in many respects. It was nice. I was like, I actually really like this product. Like, I think there's a cool vibe here. The show went well. It was funny. I liked the audience participation. That Jordan and Rachel, who are running the space, doing the day-to-day stuff. They did a great job. I didn't have to stack chairs, take any bottles out. Didn't have to man the bar. And none of that. It was just. Got to come and see everybody, shake hands, politician vibe, hey, good to see ya, all that stuff. And it's nice. A lot of the people you become friends with, right? So it ended up being this big thing where a lot of people I hadn't seen also came out to the show too, got to see you guys and like, it was really nice for all that too, like kind of more low-key celebratory thing. Because when I do the big celebrations, I really put a lot of like effort and emphasis into them and curate and all that. So it was more just me kind of like, I'm going to be there if you want to show up and say hi. Great. Tickets are $5. It can be like a nice, almost like we're going out for dinner, but we'll just go see a show instead,
Hell yeah.
So I remember the 1 year though. I've been thinking a lot about that recently.
Yeah. Bobby got his tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah. 1 year, I think I've been trying to figure out the top 20 days of my life. It's really hard to do when you actually think, like, trying to figure out, like, because so many of the best days probably are just the ones where you don't remember because nothing really memorable happened, but you...
Except for the lingerie and the hoodie.
Sure. Yeah, except for that,
That's up there. That's top 5 for sure.
Definitely not. But, it's a fun, it's a better photo than a real night. But it was like, I had to put that one on because, that was just, I think... the culmination of everything at the moment, and one of those nights where it was like, I don't know, just it was iconic, like, I think in many respects.
If we could go back in time and kind of just picture, like, where were you at when you first started 582?
That was a weird time, man. That was so basically, I mean, I've talked a little bit about the kind of journey before to start up the MOTN, but leading up to that, you know, you got COVID. This was after the first kind of summer of doing all the COVID stuff and everything. I had been meaning to go on this big trip with my grandpa on this, you know, sailing adventure thing. COVID kind of like threw a wrench in that. I'd saved up some money. I'd had an injury claim for I'd cut my hand at work the year before, so I'd had saved up some more money from that. Then the CERB came in and been working on the side. I just had, for the first time in my life, some money, and I had a bit of time, so I knew I'd wanted to, when the boat trip didn't work, I knew I wanted to move out into Vancouver, but I had literally no like plan whatsoever. I just thought, all right, I'll move out to Vancouver and I'll do something in the arts, but something might kind of present itself. And so I'd been doing a lot of photography, kind of leading up to that once I moved out there. And actually one of my friends, Louis St. Rose, you guys have met him, but he had a studio with his girlfriend at the time and had been shooting there. It was the first time I had shot in a photography studio, and I was like, oh, I can just do so much more with this control and having an outlet and white walls and all this stuff. So I knew I wanted to get a space like that at some point. And so I'd been shopping around looking for places, and I'd found two that I was kind of interested in. One, which was the MOTN, and or the 5A2 spot. A guy that I had known had put it up on his Instagram. He had some kind of spot in his studio that was for rent. So I scheduled that, and another spot that was just down the block in the same day. And so I go to 582, start of the day. I'm like, this is a cool, like, I hate, you know, the neighborhood is crazy, but it's really secluded. I go in, it looked absolutely nothing like how I ended up making it look, but I saw it, and I just thought, wow, this is so big, and the emptiness of it, and like not knowing what I would even do with this. I just loved that freedom of like, oh, this is a blank canvas. I can do anything I want with this, but I know this area right here would look great for photos. If I painted the walls white and everything, this would be a great spot for that. So I talked to him, and what became this thing where it was like a corner of the studio ended up, he was like, actually, we're leaving altogether. So not only is it this space, but it's actually also, when you take on the lease for this space, you got to take on the lease for the photography studio that was right next to us. That was that kind of where the tattoo studio ended up going. So right off the bat, I was like, oh, well, I appreciate you letting me come and take a look, but there's no way I'd be able to afford this. I don't have a business plan or anything. But in the back of my head, I was like I could make something work. Maybe I didn't have any real float for it. Like I was like, oh, I could come up with an idea or something. I had that in the back of my head, but I out loud was saying, no, I'm sorry. Thanks for the offer, but I'm going to go look at the other place. And so I go to the other place, which was within my budget, and it was down the block. And I'm greeted by this, I want to say late 30s, early 40s year old woman. She had the buzz with the dyed hair, the denim vest with all the patches and buttons of all the, rainbow, all that stuff. And she goes and gives me a tour of her shared multi-purpose space, and she takes me to the little corner of the space, and it was like $500 a month to rent. But it was like the walls, everything was so beaten up about it. You had to do a big repaint. It was just this little kind of corner in the middle of the space, and I just kept looking at everyone that I'd be sharing with, and I just fucking I hated the vibe. And as I asked questions more and more, I just realized that this was not the same type of experience that I was looking for. One, I didn't respect any of the artists in the space. I thought that all the art was bad. Yeah. They were all old, and I hated that even more. I had such a chip on my shoulder about age at the time too, where I was just like, I hate the fact that you're like aging and you haven't perfected your craft. Like, this is still bad, but like, you're running in a circle that will buy your art out of other reasons than the actual merit of your art. And I couldn't stand that. And then as I was asking questions about the policies of the space, like, okay, if I wanted to do a shoot here, can I play music? No, we're a music-free space. Okay. Can I smoke some joints in here? I like to smoke while I'm working. I was a big believer of that at the time. No, absolutely not. We do this and that, and we can't have any smoke here. I was like, okay. And you only had access to it till like 7 p.m. There was just all these like caveats and just people I had no interest in working with. And so I realized then, I was like, oh, okay, if I'm going to do anything, I have to be in control of doing it. There's no other way for me. I'm just too like authority adverse, I guess. So I started cooking and coming up with a business plan that I thought could work. I mean, it was a fucking pipe dream, right? When I started the MOTN, it was... The reason why I was trying to do that at all and not just get a job was that I had started dating someone who I'd never had a real girlfriend before in my life, and I felt like such a bum because I had no job. I'd been saving up for this boat trip, so I'd quit my job. I'd gotten rid of all my stuff, my place, everything. I've done this now like a few times in my life, but I'd set up a nice thing for myself, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going on a trip, and I got rid of everything. So then when we started dating, I was literally on some bum shit. I was like couch surfing. I was pretty much homeless because I wasn't living at home. Like I would go from couch to couch, with a suit or a little like rolly suitcase thing with my stuff. And I was like, fuck, I want to do something that is like impressive or like, at least what I thought, you should do if you're with someone that you want to be with and, make something of myself a little bit. So I give a lot of credit to her in retrospective. Like I probably wouldn't have done anything like talk about headspace. Like I was trying to, be a man, I guess. And I was a boy, so my business plan was fucked. I mean, in retrospect, it didn't last the first month. Understand? Like my plan was that it was going to be it's so crazy in the downtown east side, a walk-in photography studio where if you wanted to go and get photos at any moment, that you could just, as you're strolling by, come and get some photos taken of yourself and your friends, and I would do up some nice photos and edit them up fun and all this stuff, and then I would sell vintage clothes and things that I thought were cool from like Alibaba that I had bought that I was like trying to like flip.
Right.
Terrible business model. Like the vintage market thing is like a dead end. Like everyone that does those, it's like they have to have some kind of supplementary income coming in or overcharge like a motherfucker and go to like clientele bases that there's very few places that I think do it well that don't have some kind of other like supplementary income coming in. Gore Street is one of them that I think is pretty good, but there's so this model, as I'm getting into a month in, I didn't have rent for the space. And I'd signed a year lease. So I didn't have money for my next month's rent. And I didn't have money for my next month's rent at my apartment either. So I was literally like, I had them kind of divided in the month. So the first of the month was rent at home, and the 15th was rent for the month. So it was just a sick of like every 15 days for the first year, I was under more stress than I hope to ever have to go through again, because it was just, fuck, how am I going to do this? And I knew I could not, I don't come from like wealthy means by any, like if I need money, my parents are like, yeah, I also need money. Like, it's like, not that they're, where no one's, really down bad, but I just don't have that type of relationship where it's like I can really lean on you for that emergency grand. It's like $100 if worst case, okay, yeah, but like $1,000, $2,000, like the rent with all of it was crazy. So it was pretty quickly that I had to start figuring out some kind of adaptive models, and I think the first couple of things were some pop-up shops that we started doing, and those ended up doing pretty well. We had a few where we would just get lots of people in and the right kind of artsy buzz stuff. But then it started being just a rental thing. Like I started renting, the space out for events because we were in that little COVID bubble. I just kind of was like, all right, I personally am not doing this as like a political protest, but I also am of the belief of like, I think that a lot of these things, and I don't mind saying it now in retrospect, I think most people agree, like a lot of the lockdown stuff was pretty unnecessary and didn't actually end up doing a lot of good and did a lot of people harm. And so I was this space where like you could kind of come and do things, and if you wanted to do a masked event, you could do a masked event. If you didn't want to do a masked event, you didn't have to do one. And like I didn't care either way. There's no like vaccine, you got to show me this. I was like, this is fine. You whatever the organizers feel like is the way that they want to do this, I'll respect that and just be the vessel and venue that it should be. So it started out, our first event was a bachelorette party. And it took a long time till we started doing actual shows.
Yeah, so
and,
like at what point did you transition from a photography studio to comedy?
Well, the photography studio was always there till the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it ended up being like, I still have more than 100 reviews on Peerspace, which that became this like perfect model for whenever the events started to lack the space rental for photography started to be able to take off. So it was the same month that I had opened, they had reached out because they'd had multiple kind of locations that they had built up in Canada already, but hadn't gone to Vancouver, and they were trying to reach into the Vancouver market. So rather than going to Space List or some of the other like space rental places right off the bat, I went with them, and that exclusivity with them and the fact that it was very flashy and the fact that I had just gone and a really simple, like really like the easiest and best business decision I think I ever made in my life was I just went and on the filter went and looked and said, okay, what is the cheapest space that's on here? Okay, it was $50 an hour. It was my neighbor, actually at the time, who also had a photography studio, and he had it fucking bum in there. It was just gray walls, one background, shitty lights. He had a shitty attitude. In that space, they had rats and mice and all this stuff. I put a lot of work into like all the pest control, all this stuff and that whole side was just a dump. And he was a bad, dumb business owner. I still don't like that guy. And I looked at his and went, okay, $50. I'll do 45 then. And you do 45, and now when people like us, people that are starting up and don't have that crazy $200 an hour kind of budget, and they need it to be this pristine with the brick wall and the this and the that, and they want something that maybe is going to like excite their client and make it, they want to do a music video, but they don't maybe have the best ideas, or maybe they're not the most like creative or ingenuitive, videographer, but they want something that's going to like splash. Okay, well, we'll slap the neon on. We'll slap the posters on. We'll put a figure here, and we'll mirrors and colored lights, and like make it flashy and loud, so that right away when you go on, it's not only the cheapest on there, but it's easily the laziest for you as an artist. Like you just get to sit back and go, the space is cool enough. I don't really need to do a whole lot, and that's exactly what I needed. I mean, before you really come to the table with like really creative ideas or that confidence and freedom to do music videos like how you and I have done videos in the past, where we'll just go and like we'll just walk, and I'm pretty confident at this point where I'm like, if we walk long enough, I'm gonna see something that I like and we can just shoot. Before you build that up, a lot of the times you really are just looking for that one location that will save your shoot, because you have some person that's put their faith into you and you don't really know what you're doing, and all this stuff, and you don't have the biggest budget because you want to give them on the cheap, so you get the client. And I knew how this dynamic could work because I needed it. Like it was building the thing that I had needed. So it transitioned to a full-time event space focused, probably about I want to say like 8 months in, a year in almost. Like even pretty much once we had the year party, I really stopped taking any personal events. It was a lot of like birthday parties, and all of those things were the fucking worst. I mean,
oh really?
Oh fuck!
What was the worst about the birthday parties?
Well, it was like birthday parties, and I had done some like kind of like club adjacent things where like people want to do like big like EDM, and like those are the places where I'll always look at organizers, and I go, because I come from the film background, right? So we have this term on on film sets where it's like you like don't burn your location, meaning which is ironic in retrospect, but the idea of like don't burn your location as in don't piss off the people that own the space so that the next time somebody wants to come and film here, they won't let them because you were such a shithead that they don't want anything to do with other people.
Right.
So there were so many people that if I didn't need the money would have absolutely burnt the location because we would have someone come in and their capacity would be 50 and I would walk into the other room and I'd be like, there is easily 100 people in this place right now. They would bring in their own speakers so that I didn't have control of the speakers, and it would be like, like just ridiculous, like stupid stuff. Like obviously you've never run an event before. If you had, you did it in the woods, and like you think that this is what's going to happen in the downtown east side, like 100%. You're going to get the cops called if you keep doing this. So I'd have to like shut stuff down every now and again, which is death for a venue. If you do that enough and it gets out like that, it's a tough balance where you're like, it's death one way, death another. I have to navigate it in like the right way, be cordial but still be firm. I'm younger than most of the people that are renting, so like a lot of people don't even know who the fuck I am as I'm trying to like turn down the music. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is my speaker. Like, you fuck off right now, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you'd get things where you walk into the bathroom and it's like, great, it's flooded. Like, completely fucking flooded, and I don't have the money to get a plumber, so it's just me today unplugging the fucking toilet. And I learned so much of that kind of stuff through all of that. But yeah, some of the birthday parties, or I remember one of the worst ones was we had the Vancouver Film School's acting graduating class. They wanted to have their like grad party at the space. And actors, I don't know if you guys know this, but actors tie one off like a fucking, like lunatics, but in the cringiest way possible, of course, because they're like young, 19-year-old actors coming out of Vancouver Film School, the fucking douchiest film school that you can go to. They're never gonna make it. Like, not a single one of them is going to make it in Hollywood or anything like that. They're Canadian like it's not gonna happen for them at all. And they're just, they're playing like Taylor Swift on the thing, and it's so loud, and doing all these like top 40 songs. And I just remember at one point, one Biggie song came on, like Big Papa, like real, like basic, like this plays at weddings kind of music, not the deep cuts by any means. And they had one black guy in the space, and he was the only one. Like, it went from everyone singing to then absolutely no one knowing any of the words or anything. You could hear one guy in there that was like doing it. They were all standing around like, oh my God, this is crazy. And they just got so shit-faced that by the time the event was done, it was like 9 p.m. I had another event happening. That's how like lame these guys were. They could have booked till like 12 o'clock if they wanted to, and I would have let them go from one. They had booked to 9 p.m. because that's when they knew they were going to be done. And they're coming out of the place, and I'm trying to usher everyone out. I'm like, I need half hour to like turn this place around. You left it an absolute fucking mess for like this next people. I'm gonna have to do a huge, those floors in there were such a nightmare to mop, and like once it got sticky, it was sticky for a day or two. It was just such a pain in the ass. And so I'm trying to usher them out. I got the neighbor next to me, and he's just relapsed on drugs, so he's going fucking crazy off them. He starts coming around, pepper spraying, like, oh, it was just the guy above us, he starts to like have a freak out because now there's pepper spray out on the streets, so he starts freaking out. He's throwing stuff out of his window, and like it's like glasses falling down to the ground. They've got one of their friends who drank too much, and they're doing the whole like, should we take her to the hospital? And I'm like, how much did she have to drink? Like, she had like 5 drinks. I'm like, then no, what the fuck are you talking about? She's just drunk. You get her home, get her some water. Like, what are we talking? Like, are you serious? Have you never done this before? And they're like, no, we haven't. I'm like, okay, well, I checked your IDs, so like, now you guys are just lame as shit. Like, if you bring alcohol, and like I'm checking everyone's IDs, I was pretty good with that for the rentals because I can't just have like a fucking like child den of alcohol, you know. So I check everything. I'm like, you guys are just lame as fuck. Like, grow some fucking hair on your chest.
It's
for God's
9 p.m.
sake. It's 9 p.m. and you got a girl that you're like, we need to take her to the hospital. I'm like, oh my God. And I already had the chip on my shoulder with the VFS because I'm a Capilano alum. So like, that's our, that's our rival. Like everyone clowns on the VFS. So I'm already like, you fucking VFS kids, get the fuck out. Like, get the fuck out of here right now. Like, take her in the Uber, get her home. Like, get out of my front porch because all glass is raining from the fucking sky. Pepper spray. He's coming out now, and like the neighbor, he's this like ex-Hells Angels guy. He's like all coming out like, why the fuck is everybody out here on the street? I'm like, there's pepper spray. You can't smell that. And later, I find out he was the one that had pepper sprayed the door. It was just a fucking like head case nightmare, guy. It was so brutal. So I was really lucky that when we started to establish the comedy, which was in November of the first year, so I got the space in April. Opened in June, and by November we had our first comedy show. So it didn't take too long to get the comedy thing rolling. And once we did, all the clubs had just died right before us, like Comedy Mix, like all these big spots had just closed. LMG just kind of closed pretty much right as we had opened up. They're back up now, but like all these really like institutions of comedy in Vancouver couldn't operate, of course, because of COVID. So they had closed down because of it, and a lot of businesses did during that time. If you can't operate outside the law, then you're kind of screwed. So. We kind of just fell in at this like perfect little moment where we were able to pick up a lot of those pieces, and it just had like insane support from the comedy community. Like just, every comedian when they would come, you guys got to come check out the MOTN. Like it was so much. And then when the kind of collab started with Icon, then it was like, oh, now we're
Canadian Underdogs.
I'll never say their name again. when the collaboration started in that way, and then we also started, like, I saw the value in that right away of like, oh, okay, if we can tap into like 2 sections of community-based organization, like then you'll just be able to become part of the zeitgeist in such a broader way than just comedy, because comedy has such a specific, like, if you're a comedy fan, you go to a lot of comedy venues, but it's not necessarily as like outwardly like, oh, you need to come and do this. So that kind of like being able to hit it from those different angles really helped. And then once it became that kind of space, then being able to do concerts of all different kinds and, shows of a lot of different kinds, like, started to open up a lot of those doors. And yeah, so, it probably took us about a year, all in all, to be able to get to, like, fully just events. And we were never just comedy at that space, because we were, did the weekly stuff with you guys, and I'd throw other concerts. It started to slow down concert-wise near the end. I was pretty selective on the concerts, just because I was like, I need organizers that are going to respect my boundaries and what I can do. So a lot of the times I wanted to work with organizers that I felt like were on the up, rather than already had things established. Like I had worked with, some like kind of like after party type of places and stuff where they would bring in like really cool people, like all those like the Vancouver like elite, and they would come in and they'd be so trivialized by the space, this like speakeasy, what is this spot, and come up with Boslin in this space, the guys that are like doing the Vancouver thing or whatever, and they would always kind of like little buddy me, and I'd be like, okay, I get cool, but none of these people ever fucking tag the account. None of them. They always just post the photo, and they don't give a shit about whether or not we're here tomorrow or the next day or anything like that. So, and then of course there's always the like, I want to be still good with them, and then I tell them, okay, we kind of have to be done at like midnight, and then they would be like, all right, it's 1, can we keep going, I'll pay you an extra, and you're like, I need the money, I don't want to piss you off, this person's here, okay, we can go an extra, and then just, it's such a unstable way to live when you're just like up all hours of the night because you need the cash. So yeah, once I was able to transition to comedy, like the before the fire had happened, I think we were 6 weeks of full weekends of sold out shows, like six full weeks of just like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday sold out, sometimes 2 shows in a night. like back-to-back shows. We started to bring headliners in. That was like literally right before we'd got, like, when the fire had happened, we had started to bring like headliners from out of the country, and that was like, I knew that was going to be a new era for us and everything. So yeah, it was this like weird little moment in that kind of time period. But only until the new space was it that I realized, okay, well, some of the parameters here are going to just have to be that we're a comedy focused space, and really, really dial in on that one kind of thing and be a little bit less multi-purpose, even though, of course, we still had the tattoos and podcasts and all that. But just the music angle was just with those stairs. I just knew people are so dumb at concerts. It's crazy. The difference of like a concert versus a comedy show for audience-wise is like people will go to concerts regularly already completely fucked, where a comedy show it's way less common. And now I think there's a lot more etiquette that's people are starting to understand of how to go to a comedy show, because for a lot of people during when we first started, they'd literally never been to a comedy show in their life. We targeted a more younger audience, so a lot of these people had barely even been to bars because they had turned 19, myself included, turned 19 during COVID. So it was like, I didn't even have that, like, I had some experience, the fake and all that. I had some experience before that, but a lot of people hadn't. And comedy etiquette, not talking, not heckling. They see a video before they see like a good crowd work interaction before they see the crowd work go wrong clip, or like now it's like a little bit more known. You don't talk, but concerts, fuck man, disrespectful. A lot of just, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of that too, where you get people coming in sometimes where it's like you're in a space, you're on the hook for the space, so it can't just be as like free as like you brought in your own fucking fireball. It's always a fireball. It's always a douche with a fireball, and it's always a fucking fireball. Why is it? It's the universal drink for I'm gonna ruin the night for other people. There's never been a night where I've had a fireball where I'm like, this went well for everyone involved, and it was a nice, safe night. It's always the night to ruin.
That's why they got the devil on the cover.
Yeah, because it turns you into the fucking devil. For sure. So, you'd have people come in and they'd be like, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, just kick you out, you're gone. And they're like, oh, what? And they realize you're serious. And I'm not like a big guy. I've never had to get physical. I've never really had to get physical at any event or anything. You just kind of stand your ground. You're like, I'm not impressed by you. You don't scare me. Like, everyone here knows who I am. Like, it's not going to go well for you if that's the route you want to go, but I'm not even going to engage with you like that because I don't have that ego. Like, my name's on the door, so I don't need to puff my chest more than, like, chest is already puffed, you know? Like,
exactly, right? Yeah.
Like, I remember, I remember one time at the Cyphers that was really funny with that. A guy didn't know, it wasn't actually the Cyphers, it was a concert with someone who was a regular at the time of the Cyphers. He had done a concert, and somebody had come to the event and didn't know who I was, and I was standing outside checking tickets and whatever, just vibing and talking to everybody, and he had bumped into me, and I was like, oh, hey, buddy, and he was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do about this? And I just remember Cass putting his hand on his shoulder and going, he's not the guy. And the guy went like, oh, okay. And it's just this guy, like Cass, just towering over him, being like, this is not the guy. Oh shit. Okay, all right. Yeah. Just leaned back. I didn't flinch. I wasn't anything. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, right.
That's the route you want to go, but like we don't have to. It can just be like fun.
Yeah, yeah. And that just like comes from the respect people have for you too, where they, like on the other side of it, the people that do know you, that know that you're hosting that space, like they want to, stand up for you and protect you.
I think that energy usually goes both ways in a lot of ways. Like I think that people that bring that, you always hear it's like the same guy that gets into fights all the time. Where it's like, I think you're going to things with that like chip on your shoulder or whatever. Even if it is coming to you, there's something that you're doing that like presents that. Where I try to, like, I don't even hang out with people that are in that blocks. I'm like, I don't ever need to be in like conflict like that. I don't like bringing conflict like that in my life. I get anxious, and I'm like, I don't get off on this. Some people get off on that, and I just I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I was thinking about it. It's kind of like having a space like that is almost like you're inviting or like you're hosting a party at your house.
Yeah.
But like people that you don't know are coming to the party and now they're like in your house and it's like, yeah, okay, like I open my doors to people, but now you're kind of like, okay, what's this guy doing over here? And you know, like eventually if like the same people are coming around and you realize that they're fucking breaking your vases and stealing your silverware, you're like, okay, like let me, you know, invite different people over.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, those and then some of the things, you know, would surprise me of who those demographics would be. You know, you'd think some things would be rowdier than others. Like one of the first actual real events that we did, like first like actual event where people were coming was we did a series of like drag shows. And nice. So it was this like, I actually always look back on these being some of the fondest things. I have no interest in drag, goddammit. I can respect it, but like I know straight people that like kind of like it or like it's like a fun thing. They go out with their girl. It's never been my thing. I think it, you know, cool, whatever. But what I really loved about it was that I do know a lot of history about drag, and I love the history of speakeasies and things that were like against the culture for when they were, you know, during their time and things like that. And so the originating, you know, drag shows had to be in secret because people would literally go out and murder, you know, like they'd go and murder you when you were leaving, you know, like there was actual threat of violence and death. So it was really interesting talking to the organizers of that event where it was this thing where we were all like, this is the first time in years where drag has felt kind of like sexy again, if that makes any sense, because it's not allowed because of the COVID stuff. It was like, we're doing this in secret and we have to go back to like speakeasy rules and everything to do with sexuality is always better in secret. I'm a firm believer in that. I think that the more like sexually liberated the world becomes, the less interesting that sex becomes and the less like hot and kind of, I don't know, provocative. Provocative comes from like it kind of being wrong. And so that element, like they would express that to me of like this element of this being wrong again makes this like really fun for us in a way that it hadn't for them in a long time. So there was an element of that too, where you're walking into the space and you're going like, oh shit, the guy's got the fucking, you know, leather bound there and you've got the guy with the ball gag there and that, you know, in the dress there and everyone's grinding and it's just thick layer of sweat on the wall. But then you'd be done the event, they'd be done at 11, everybody would be cleared out, and by 11:30 the place would be fucking spotless, better than how I had given it to them. Wow. Floors mopped, trash taken out, you know, clean the bathroom better than they would just like, so that like, you know, you and then of course you like all of the biggest drag names in Vancouver follow, you know, reshared, this is the spot, everybody. So like there was just, and I wish we could have, they ended up stopped organizing events altogether. And I tried to go with a couple of the organizers and found out that's not the attitude every organizer takes to some of these events. But it was another example of those, like, you never really know until you try. Okay, is this maybe the market, or is this, you know, you give everybody kind of a shot, and then sometimes it works out really well and it helps like further things along and you get a whole nother avenue as part of the story, you know? Like, but yeah, that was thick fucking layer of sweat on the walls, like slime. You literally would go like this and it would streak down like you would just like windshield wiper. It was gnarly.
Damn, I'm getting a little hot over here.
Like
it's a hot room in here right now.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with the temperature. It's just that description was crazy.
You sweaty.
Oh, this guy's getting a little turned on.
Yeah.
Started with the porn and got back to the drag performance before we even halfway through.
Porn?
Drag porn?
Drag porn?
I don't think that. I think that's an oxymoron. Yeah. Because I think drag it's all about the outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you mean like trans porn?
Fucking around.
Oh yeah, you're thinking a lot about trans porn right now. Hey, to each their own, you know.
Tits, bro.
I was in Thailand for a couple months here. You
Whoa.
definitely saw a lot of that
Lady
going on.
boy.
They
Yeah.
call them lady boys, yeah, and they love the term. So if I'm referring to people from Thailand, they're lady boys because they don't fuck around with the whole I'm trans thing. They don't like that. No, I'm a lady boy. I'm like, okay, all right,
Get it
man.
right.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
But they are very much so. It's a very different attitude, and it's been way more popular and accepted there for way longer, right?
What is that? Do they just have like cracked surgeons out there? Like, what is?
No surgery. They say I'm a man, but I'm a lady boy. So I do this, and this is how I am on my
Right.
day to day, and you know they get a lot of tourist action. You'd be surprised. The UK loves them some lady boys.
Really?
The UK is big on it. The boys, straight guys, go down and they know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I remember the second time I went to Thailand. It was this fucking oh my god, this guy. First day at the hostel, we're out, you know, we're starting to get some drinks together and everything, and he comes in, this British guy, and he's like, he just met us. He introduces himself. He's like, I spent the day today getting an AIDS test. We're like, yo,
Whoa.
what? And he's like, yeah, I went home with a lady boy last night, and a lot of the lady boys have HIV. In Thailand at the time, it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
But this was like 5 years ago.
This is
it was
pre-prep.
yeah. At least the stats online said that it was something in the ballpark of 1 in 4. So you're talking
Wow.
like you're really fucking rolling the dice.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Like really rolling the dice. And
Brother.
buddy is like, I went home with a lady boy last night. And we're all like, no, you know, like
Yeah.
oh no, bro. And he was like, and I was so drunk, I didn't use a condom. We're like, no. And then he was like, and when I pulled my dick out, there was blood all over it.
No.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
Dude,
All of the worst things that could. So he had spent, and then he was like, I guess it takes them like 3 weeks to find your results, but then you find your immediate results, but then it takes them another like 3 months after that to actually find out if you actually have it or not.
Bless you.
Thank you. So we're like, so what are you gonna do? And of course, this UK, you know, 20-something-year-old,
do?
he's like, well, we're gonna party hard tonight. I might be fucking dying, boys. So we were like,
Fuck, dude.
so we went out with him that night, and he tied another one off, and had a fucking big, you know,
Jesus.
It was crazy, man. And we followed up with him because we were out for about a month that trip, and yeah, we followed up with him on the 3 weeks, and he was like,
just
I
all
got the all clear, boys. We're like, yay! You know, celebrate. I'd never been more happy that somebody didn't have AIDS. I didn't know the guy, but I just felt, oh, you know, you're trying to be a nice guy. Oh, she's pretty. She's got big tits, you know. I'll fuck her pussy, you know. And just straight out blood all over. It's like, yeah.
Holy fuck, man.
Because I guess some people, when you ask if the surgery thing, some people do get the surgery, but I don't know if you know anything about the surgery, but it is, it may be less than ideal, you know,
Yeah.
in some, because it's, I guess, it's technically the only way that at least this is my knowledge, the only way that the surgery vagina can I don't know, this doesn't need to be on the icon. You can cut this out.
100%
But
it does.
I guess the only way that the surgery can work for you to actually be able to like continually, you know, use it like a vagina,
Right.
is that it is technically always a open wound.
Yeah, I've
Because
heard
your
that,
body
yeah.
doesn't heal like
Yeah.
into a real vagina, obviously. So
Don't
it
they
is
have to
just
re-stretch it and open it up like
a lot?
it will
Yeah,
close?
like basically every time you have sex you're reopening the wound. So when he was like, "This is really shallow," and like he's trying to fuck, and he pulls it out and it's bloody. It's like that's because that's
It's-
how that works. You're not just because you invert your dick doesn't then mean it's.
I thought the lady boy has a dick.
Some of them do. A lot of them do. Yeah, a lot of them do. But some of them don't. Yeah.
But they have tits.
yeah.
They have a dick and tits.
Yeah, you're like at least they've got tits though. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, they've got tits.
We had a
Yeah.
lady boy at the cipher last night, right?
Not last night, but we've definitely had some trans people come to the cipher
You
for
know,
sure.
It's a progressive space. You know.
Absolutely.
Before.
I don't know if we've
Definitely
ever,
not here for sure. Not here.
I don't know if we've ever had a trans on the mic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We have had a trans
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
mic?
Big time.
Tons.
Yeah.
Really?
5.
Yeah.
I think off the top of my head, and probably some that I didn't even notice.
Trewth
What?
the Rapper's one of them.
Who's one trans?
Jamie Clausen.
Oh yes, okay, Jamie Clausen. I forgot about that.
I
Yeah.
think that there's there's never been a more
We actually don't
progressive rap scene that hasn't been explicitly we are the progressive people. That was one of my favorite things that started to develop after the shift from the original name, that whole story.
Yeah.
Was that it became this thing where you're like, oh right, we're seeing people from everywhere, all different types people, and at no point is it being like, we're the fucking good guys. Come and do the good guy thing. It was just like, you spit dope, you're gonna be respected. And
Yeah.
and if you know anything about the history of hip hop, it has never been that. It's been a very, it's been a very prejudicial place.
Yeah.
So that fact has always been something I've been proud of, because I really don't like performative progressivism. I find that to be really annoying, especially when you're trying to use it to like further your motives. So there's always this fine line of trying to do events where like people are coming with a specific thing that they have in mind.
Yeah.
And in some cases I'll play because I think that it might be able to target a new audience, and I like voices from different kinds, and then sometimes I find that it'll go too far. Like you get so many shows where it'll be like the most like, and it'll be from organizers of that demographic, but they'll just the most like racist, like wonton comedy, and it's all Asian lineup. I'm like, I would never in a million years fucking ask an Asian comedian to come and do wonton comedy or whatever it is. I know there might literally be a wonton comedy, so like no disrespect if you do have one, but there are those like everywhere where they've got like a specific thing, and in some cases I can understand because they're trying to target a specific demographic that might feel like they aren't being represented at normal shows, and that they want to be able to come and see voices that relate to them. And so I've seen it work in some cases, and I've just seen it be really gratuitous in other cases where I just don't feel comfortable about the branding and like marketing, where you kind of have to do something like a little funny. Like your cousin and I did a series of shows where it was People of Comedy, and it was all like people of color on the lineup because it was them telling stories specifically to their their race.
Yeah.
Where then we were able to have audiences that weren't even necessarily comedy fans, but people that were maybe wanting to come in support, like Muslim voices in comedy or Asian voices in comedy, where it was like People of Comedy. That is the name.
Yeah.
Like it's a clever name. This is a cool thing of like a themed show, but it's not like, it's not the gratuitous,
It's not like, Robert Pang hosting wonton comedy
or whatever it is, like the most kind of, I think like, egregious version of that. Like I try to bring that kind of, like this is just a space where we're doing cool shit, and hopefully any given show you've got a variety of voices. It's tough in comedy where it's a majority, like it's a really big like white dude, just fucking like media. There's so many, and a lot of really great writers and really funny people, so you want to just build the best lineup all the time. But there's also this dynamic of, if people don't get to go on good shows, then they continue with shitty practices. I'm sure you guys have that too, where you meet people who are like rappers that will do bad like gigs. They'll do the fucking Fortune gig to like 0 people or whatever on the Tuesday night at the or whatever it is, where they'll have those like shows where they start building bad habits because of it. As a rapper, where you're not building those skills, or like maybe you're not freestyling enough, or maybe you're not like ad-libbing, or you don't have and you start to see those bad habits develop, and that's a problem. So there's this kind of fine line where you're like, I don't want to sully the quality of the show, I never want to compromise that, but at the same time there needs to be a space for people to develop. So that's kind of why we've started to do we've got our Wasp Nest show, which is an extension of like the Beehive open mic kind of night, where it's not quite an open mic, it's a booked AM show. So you have to be going and doing the really shitty open mics, and the people that are there go, okay, you're doing better, or like you've got a good joke here or something like that. So they get booked on the show, get to be in arguably like we're top 5 most prestigious clubs in the Lower Mainland, and so you get to come be at a good club, be in front of comedy fans. You don't have to just go to a fucking... Most open mics are at like bars while people do not want you to be doing comedy.
Yeah.
So you're doing comedy against the grain of like what people are there to do, which is get drunk on a Monday night. Like,
Right, yeah,
you gotta
yeah,
think like
yeah.
the mentality, like it's not the finest patrons at the fucking Funky
No.
Winker Beans on a Monday night.
They got
Like,
the football on the TV.
yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
you're fighting against everyone that's there for hockey. Like
Yeah.
some of those shows you go to and it's just so brutal
Oh
because
my
somebody
God.
can go up and be actually really funny, but if the audience isn't there, it feels and looks and sounds and is bombing. So
Yep.
that was kind of like my shift in mentality of like, okay, well, I know I want to do this, but I don't really like these types of shows just because I don't like that type of like organizing. So what can we do to be able to help build this new generation? Because there's a lot of great voices, but they just need to build those stronger practices. Okay, let's start doing this. And we started it as a monthly, and now it's going to a weekly. And yeah, I never thought I'd be
Fantastic.
saying that we're doing like, it's not... Yeah, there's a lotto spot, so it's a slightly open mic. People put their names in a hat kind of thing, and there's a 10-minute window where you get to do like 2 minutes or whatever of like if you're really new. So I like that there's that little bit of an element, brings out a big crowd. I like the comics that run it. They always have at least a couple really good acts on there. Some guys that will come in, sometimes that will be like real pro guys that we would normally book will just, they want to go and work something out in front of a crowd and there's nothing else to do on a Monday night, so they'll go up and just be able to get a spot, and it's like nice for that. And hopefully we can develop the next crop of comedians in the same way that you guys are trying to develop like the next crop of rappers where they
Yeah.
have developed the sound from the cypher,
Yeah.
not the other way around where they're coming in with their own like trap, whatever thing where they're trying to like bend it into the cipher. It's like no, we'll develop this whole new group. And now you see people where every time I go, I'll see somebody where like when we started was fucking whack, like not good,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now you go and see and you're like, oh, you're one of the best people that are here now,
Yeah. Yeah.
like there's multiple people that I think would fit in that category of where I go and I see them now and I go like, wow,
Yeah.
you're super funny, or you do this as an angle or this as an angle, or you've got the song element in, or like, whereas before, you think back a couple of years ago when we started, it's like,
Yeah, well, I always think about too, like how if you think about, you or us when we first started, like we fucking sucked at what we
Yeah,
did. You know what I
100%,
mean?
yeah.
Like you were gonna run a vintage clothing shop in a random street in East Van.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like it's we've had a lot of progression and time to develop. And I always think
Yeah.
about that. Like a lot of people around us have also done that as well. And it's interesting like how it feeds back into itself. Like what you're saying. Even like now that you're able to like go away and kind of leave things in the hands of other people and trust them to do that. It's like you wouldn't have been able to do that in year one, right?
Never.
Like, yeah.
No,
yeah.
I did. It took me at least till the year mark to even have like any extra help,
Yeah.
When Sam came in, there was a little bit of extra help because
Mm-hmm.
I'd be able to take the occasional like Thursday here off in exchange for using studio space. My ex at the time would take like an occasional night here and there to work bar. I mean that really helped for this. Like the longevity of the ciphers is entirely. You can thank Sam and Amy for that, because if I had to
Yeah.
go every week to do it,
Yeah, you weren't even really there.
no, I've gotten a lot better with being kind of like neurotic and stuff like that, but I was just always so nervous. Like I
Yeah.
was nervous. And to be fair, there were nights where that was reasonable
Yeah.
to be concerned.
Oh,
like
yeah.
we would
Oh, yeah.
overpack and like you
Yep.
know there was like a fun kind of relationship Riley and I would have where it would be like, okay, to do this, right? And he'd be like, yeah, no problem. And then I'd check the camera and it would be like, you clearly have like 100 people in this space right now. There was a little bit of that, but I was like, as long as it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And Amy will text me every now and again. And she'll be like,
And you're just at home checking the cameras, like
I would every now and again. I'd be like, no, I'd look, but then she would send me a text almost like as I was doing. It would always be the best timing for. I love cosmic timing and stuff like that, where it'd be
Yeah.
like I would look, get stressed, and then get a text message like 5 minutes later, like everything's going good. There's a lot of people here, but it's a really good vibe and super chill, and everyone's closing in like 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
So there was always that element of like some of those nights were iconic because of the extended time time put onto it. Like the 20 minutes that happened after curfew would end up meaning like, okay, music is off, but Josie's going at it, and now everyone's going and doing a cappella and this and that, and like everyone's vibing, and that all of those, like I recognized that too. That was like, this is that I recognized that was like an important piece of it all.
Alright, yeah. Battle with Dodi your past, so dope is the rockin' and now. So like I got a gun at the last school, she wanna take me up into the city this summer called Tahoe. Crib like a Bronco, bigger than Costco. Wake up the chicken and waffles, we get this bitch, we get it lit right away. Ain't nobody that's selling us stock though. The Tina they calling me Guapo, and Amigo they calling me Chapo. They can't believe it, I'm white as a sand on the motherfucking beaches in Cabo. My homie been stitching the pieces somewhere in the valley, we got it on lock. Oh, I'm at the stronghold, needed the studio, wanted a monastery, but ain't nothing is calm, no. All of my karma is coming already. Go home, that the Lord can forgive them for all of this sin, and they back to my door. Yo, did you know I can never forget them? They tend in the garden, choke on they venom. We been on 10 minutes, skill is 11. Sentiment ain't never been in my sentence. I'm better every second, testing the limits until the record showing me 7 digits. Bitch, pressing records, we independent. Really tell me who the hell is the illest? Guess I'm waiting for the rest to admit it. Still I'm gonna get head in the Civic. It's dark, it don't matter, the windows are tinted, I'm gone. Smoking the strong, yeah, I got shit on the block. Can get a hey, yeah, hurry up, beating each up in the bars, okay? Who wanna take it from me? We do it straight out of Sami. Doing this shit and you know that I'm sick, so my motherfucking nose is runny.
Oh, I need help.
And I always recognized the importance of it all, and there was I always liked going to things, but when it was in my space, the best cipher that I'll ever say I went to was that the first Plaza one was because it was the first time where I got to go and be like, this is the experience, and I don't have fucking any stake in it going 100%. Way too good, which is the goal. It's like my goal, my hope, not hope, but in a lot of cases there would be like, fuck, we just had a really big couple of events over the weekend, and now we're gonna have the biggest one on a Tuesday. Yeah, like fuck. Yeah, and it was only until the people above started to come, the security guards started to come, and I started getting like people coming when on my days that I was there, coming and being like, thank you so much, and started to hear that like broader community engagement where I went, oh, we're not actually at risk of anything here because we have so many people that would come out literally and be like, no, I live right above. This is a beautiful, amazing. And so once I did that, I think I started coming around quite a bit more for shows because I was like, I felt a lot less at risk of that. I mean, I think it was the first big one that we did where the cops came and they just came, poked their head in. And we definitely were over capacity.
This is in the middle of COVID, too.
This is in the middle of COVID. I could have gotten a fat fine.
The entire room is filled with people smoking
dope.
weed.
They popped their head in.
I was standing right beside the door. I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. Standing right beside the door, fucking rooms full, people on stage rapping, fucking smoke filling the air. And then the door opens, and it's just like this female cop that's just like sticking her head in. She just kind of does like a scan of the room. And like, to this day, I don't know what she was thinking, but I think in her head she was just like, oh hell no, like she was just like, she saw the paperwork in front of her and she's just like, nope, like fuck that.
I went out there and talked to them because I own the space and everything, and I went out and they're like, they didn't say anything, no highs, no nothing. They're like, so what time are you guys shutting down? I said 10 p.m. They said, okay, good, we won't be back then. And they never came back until the last one.
It was definitely like, I don't know, the cyphers always
last
felt
event.
like
Not last cipher.
Right, I was gonna say, yeah.
The cipher has always felt like a family, like brothers and sisters and Daddy Josie, and everyone's there. Yeah. So like, there was times, honestly, where the energy definitely felt like you weren't there, and we're all like, "Hey, Dad's gone." Like we're fucking like, turn it up. And
I knew that was needed. Yeah. I don't get me wrong. Like, I knew that's the energy that I was bringing. So it wasn't even this thing of like, I don't want to be here, or my time's like this, or whatever. But on some of those nights too, where it was like, fuck yeah, I'm doing shows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Thank you, by the way.
Out till like midnight or later than midnight. 1, 2, like we would tie nights off sometimes where like we're out in the back on the other side with the comics where like, we're talking to people till like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like it was big fucking deal, a lot of time consuming. When it came to the Tuesdays where I was like, I give that trust, and that trust was never broken. And even when times, the moment that it was taken too far, the actions that were taken in response to it were so affirmative and like not a band-aid, it was a permanent solution, that it was like, oh, we have a larger dynamic than like, I don't need to stress this one little thing, because what Riley had showed was that he was taking it seriously and respected the space and appreciated what it was. So it was after that I had gone. Normally the response, I think, for most event places, or the cops come, there's this, or there's threats of violence, or whatever is the thing. Normally it would be like, okay, we're done. I can't do this anymore. I went, okay, well, let's do this. But if this is the part that's the element that is creating conflict, and this is like the money angle, then like, let's scrap that, and we'll just, and so it was after that, then we never charged again for the space or anything. And it was just like months of that. And it was just like, on, like, do your thing. We didn't make any money or anything like that, but it was just, I knew it was like an important kind of cool thing to do. And if that was going to be the element that created conflict, then I could at least do my part to mitigate what that conflict was. Okay, so if like we need to do these like booked shitty shows with like rappers that aren't actually going to the cypher, that nobody gives a fuck about, like some of those book shows were like so lame, like so fucking lame. A great, it was a great production, but like I hated a lot of the rappers because they would put like you guys like first and like not last, and it was like, this order lineup makes no sense. It's based on who bought more followers on Instagram and like just nonsense. But those were the things where like money was being made. So then it was like, okay, because we had a rental thing. So it was like, okay, if that's the thing that we need to scrap to make this perfect, then all right, well, I'll do my part to eliminate that element. And then if things work out for some reason of having a community behind me for one day, maybe then things, and you just see how these things, like cosmic timing again, it's like doing that, it became a community thing, not a venue relationship. So then when everything happened with the fire, it was that much more support from the community because that love had been given in the first place. Like I wasn't unaware to that dynamic. I didn't know what it would be eventually, but I just, having a community is always better than no community, and in Vancouver there's very few communities. I'll never forget like the response that you got after the MOTN burnt down. Wild. It was insane. Like, and I remember like the day that, I guess it would have been the day of it happening, we showed up to the MOTN because it was supposed to be a cypher that day. And we kind of had like a little funeral outside for it. But we had we had come up with the idea to do a little like fundraiser for the event. And so like that day we just spent like the time we would have been ciphering. So we split up in teams and then just went around the city and promoted this event. Like the fundraiser. And I'll never forget just like walking down Commercial Broadway and stopping people and like explaining to them the situation. And like 9 times out of 10 I get like maybe a quarter of the way into my explanation, they'd be like, oh, the MOTN? Oh, yeah, we heard about that. We're coming to this thing. We've donated, blah, 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 blah. Oh, my friend had been there that one time. My friend got booked here, blah, 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 blah. It was just like, it was just insane to see. And, man, like, I just, like, obviously you did so much, sacrificed so much of your, the risk that, and the risk you were taking to do that, and like ultimately it paid off for you in a big way, but like it wasn't obvious that was going to happen at that time. So. No. I mean, more than anything else, I mean, it was like the first time I felt like in my life that I could be useful, and that usefulness would be reciprocated with love. Like, I think in many respects I've when I was growing up in elementary, like I'd have friends, but you'd have like, I had the worst friends, you'd have like a group of friends and like you'd find out that all of them had gone to the movies over the weekend, and you're like, why am I here if I'm not like in the mix? They would like go and do that like stupid elementary bullshit where they'd run away, or like even in high school there's a lot of like odd man out kind of shit. I've always been a bit of like a strange guy. I've always dressed a little weird, like always just been outspoken, like I was big atheist in high school, like just I always a bit of a strange cat. So it was really kind of this thing where I was like, the first time I ever got to feel like that, like trying to be a good friend or trying to do good was then like reciprocated with love and not kind of like confusion as to like, why are you doing this? Or like just doing something was reciprocated with love in that way. So, you know, yeah, that time period was always like, you know, obviously it hurt a lot that all of that progress, and I feel like I had just gotten the space to the best it had ever looked too. Like,
yeah,
once we got you in there with your pieces, that was what I had been like working towards aesthetically. We'd had other graffiti in there that like almost kind of got it, but then, you know, like Detour had done up like some great pieces, but they were Detour pieces where I was like, I want MOTN, like I want my name as the big fuck you on here, like this is the background, this is the TVs up in the corner, the Silver Surfer, Silver Stage, the arcade, like the lights,
Milkman.
everything was just
crazy,
it was peak. You know, I look back on those photos and I go like, I really love the space that we've got developed now. I think it's like the cleanest, and it was also built to last for a really long time. But that manicness of creativity, of like how I was able to just go and be like
5 screws in the little hole.
Yeah, I didn't give up. You know, I had no damage deposits, so that really helped. Whereas like I can fuck this place up as much as I'd like because they're gonna just tear it down after I'm done here,
or burn it.
Pretty much, or burn it, right? So it was just like, I'll punch a hole in here, I'll do this, I'll do that. Like it was a lot of that kind of mentality of like I can do whatever I want, and that manic nature in me of like self progress and like, okay, we got to keep developing this, and I wanted this remodel, and I just put so much work in it. So it definitely had this like effect that was, you know, it was sad for about a moment, and then it got really happy. Like I got really happy just because it was this thing of like, you know, we had thousands of people reshare the event or the GoFundMe, and we had, you know, like I had hundreds of DMs from people like, I'm so sorry, all this stuff, and I never have dealt with pity in my life. I've not had, you know, I've had a mixed life, but like I've had, you know, some bad stuff in the mix. I've never had pity, so it's a really like weird reaction for me to get. Like I don't really know how to deal with pity, and it was a lot of just kind of like, oh, thanks, you know, like I don't know, and I felt really weird accepting money from people too. Like if it was up to me, I never would have started a GoFundMe. I would have just taken my L and moved on, because that's so outside of like, I think when you grow up with not a ton of money, it's just like, I don't know, there's a really adverse thing to taking money. So like there was that whole element where it was just like really overwhelming, but in a positive way. And then there was all this like negative shit that came out of it too, where it was just this like people that didn't know me or didn't know the space or what we were about, or like even the fundamentals, just like getting in my DMs on some like weird,
that was wild,
you know, like
man.
It was just such a strange like these like white organizers. I'm like, you don't know the half of what we're doing even a little bit. Like if you did, you'd realize this is so much more progressive than your progressive focused based thing, you know?
Trying to explain that, it's like so much energy, and you want to explain it to them, but it's like, fuck, is it even worth it?
But I had sometimes though where it was these moments where it was like, you know, I think when you grow up where you are in a situation, a lot of the times where I'd had people in my life, you know, you know, I grew up in some toxic environments and stuff where it was like, you know, you don't always have like the defender, like, you know, or people are like really like outspokenly having your back and like protecting you. There's also these things where it was like, oh, I've got some forever people that came out of this where they were like, you know what, fuck you, and you know, like getting online and like really going after some people where it was like, oh, okay, I got that love there too, you know. And this was also in this like crazy time, you know, time in my life. For a month before that, I had gone through this, you know, car crash that had,
that's
like,
right.
you know, I almost died in. I broke up with my ex. Like it was this like, it's like terrible kind of like little mix. So by the time the fire happened, I was kind of smiling in a way where I was just like, I'm still alive. Like that was the thought that ran through my head where I was just like, oh, this is funny because this is terrible, but I still get to smile because I've given myself a year of like anything, including death, can happen within this year, and that's all still the fucking final destination. Like you adverted death, so now like anything that comes that isn't like a fucking like nail to the eye where you trip and like all of that is still just on the. I'm still up, my stock is still up. So there was this kind of weird appreciation and like perspective that would have any other time. I think I would have had so much more like self pity and just like really down myself. Like, oh, of course this would fucking happen to you, and and then it was 2 days of like the lowest I've ever been in my life, because I thought that this beautiful thing that I had created and tried to like really, really hard put that community focus into and really just try to do the best thing. I thought that the noise of what would happen online would outweigh the impact of that community.
Or like the people that were criticizing you.
That I felt like that maybe some people would want to distance themselves from me because they wouldn't want to be associated, because I know there'd been times where maybe I didn't, and I look back with regret, where like maybe I didn't know the full story of what was going on in a situation, but somebody says something online and you go, I don't really know that guy, so best yet to just unfollow, or just best yet to like not work with them because I don't know what the deal is. And I look back at some of those things, and I have made amends with certain people where they didn't even know that I had done that, where I just went like, hey, I'm really sorry that's how my reaction was. I don't do that anymore. I really just like, I think you got to take a more like wider approach, and also loyalty with like your friends and family has to be stronger nowadays, I think. And I think what that victory square was for me was this like, was the when I make that top 20 list, it's right up there, because it is like, to me, where not only was the love and appreciation that I had gotten from you guys, but there's people that now are going and playing sold out shows at Radio City, like comedians that I, friends with. They're opening for the biggest names on the planet, and they're getting TV shows, and they're on HBO, and they're doing, and these people all came out to go and do a live comedy outdoor like fundraiser, and we didn't end up doing the comedy bit of it, because I realized, I was like, this is so lovely that you guys did this for me. I will reciprocate by not making you have to actually go and do it. Doing comedy outdoors live is the fucking worst.
No, for sure. After COVID's over and people are back indoors.
It's the worst. It's not made for it.
No.
It's not like it. No one likes it. But we had of course our regulars, Sean McDonald, like these guys, Darcy, and Malik. But then we had like also these big heavy hitters like Andrea, and like people that, like I'm saying, like they go and headline the Comedy Store now, like 2 years later, like people that were on their way up, and people that already had a lot to prove, that they were like, no questions asked, I'm gonna come and do this for you. And it was this like love of like all these angles, plus getting the like outside perspective of people that had just been like spectating, and we had like a couple hundred people all out there, and it was just
that was crazy, man.
Like that to me, I never ended up getting another message ever after that. And there were people that I know for a fact that were there to shit on the event.
I remember.
And it was like very difficult to do so.
There's a lineup of food and jackets and donations and shit for the people that lived above the MOTN.
Or when you got the OTO boys, or like that they've got me, and they've got like we're like hands held together up. It's like, it's very difficult to shit on what has been clearly like that has been what the purpose of a lot of this stuff is. Like some of the biggest names now in music in the city having their first performances at the club, or some of the biggest comics that are working now in the city having their first performance, or the performance that they used to film in that location that got them on TV, or got them like, or their first special now at the new club, which we've had now like 6 or 7 specials happen, where some of these ones are actually going fucking huge, and these comics are getting really big opportunities because of the stuff that they filmed, and it's my logo in the background, and you just get these things where you're like, that love getting shared around in that way was this thing of like, it just kind of gave me hope again, because that was the part that it wasn't like I knew I could always rebuild. It doesn't matter about the money. Like the money definitely helped, but the money was, we capped it at half of what I had spent on the first place. So I was like, I don't even think I can, like I didn't even think I could possibly restart again, because I'm like, this was once we started getting the hate, I'm like, you know what? Fuck these people. I'm gonna cap it right here. We're gonna end it. We could have easily doubled in fundraising if we kept going and had made the fundraiser at the park about the MOTN rather than trying to like fundraise for the people above. And we could have made all this money and built up in this big space. But I was just like, you know what, I'm going to take all the wind out of your sails. Like, you think that this is what we are?
Yeah.
And fuck you. Like, we'll cap it all now.
That
like,
speaks volumes too. And like on top of that, dude, like the VLF and a lot of like people that aren't even from Canada were able to have a platform at that space.
Yeah.
And like so many of them, like that space changed their careers as well. And like having like Old Dog, like he was at the MOTN, he was at the first cipher that I ever went to, and like he's a legend. He's not here anymore, but like there's the one clip of him at Victory Square Cypher. Like, like could we run that clip on this podcast?
Llegamos con el estilo extraño, así nomás hermano venimos haciendo esta música como un legendario, haciéndolo así extraordinario, no tengo mercenario, yo lo hago así tan simple, invencible, lo siento me tienen que sentir increíble, siente mi ser cuando improviso, arriba de la nube hermano yo te aterrizo, pero te aterrizo, con esto lo improviso, hermano yo todas las mentes de la gente la actrizo, nunca me he sentido un exceso, voy siguiendo esto lo improviso, lo hago así de natural de Puente Alto 29, de Chile from yo llegué y caí de directo a la nieve, así nomás hermano yo lanzando mis poderes, ahora toda la mente de estos seres la tengo de RN, ahora lo voy a investigar profundamente dentro de su ADN,
Everybody walk and talk. Watch out now.
I know and like all of the other, all of the other angles of just like, again, things that were kind of unspoken in there too, but it's like, how many fucking drag shows do you have to do before you're not called like a homophobe or like whatever it is, or like how many, like indigenous led performances do we need to do where you're not like, just like things like that where it's like there is no, and that's why I think the biggest thing where I say like those spaces or those events where people will throw that are specifically doing it with that angle, I stay away from, because what I noticed was that these people were the same people that do those types of things or those types of shows or go to those types of events or whatever, and what that does in a lot of cases is that there's never any goodwill built up. And that's the thing that I notice all the time, is that it doesn't matter if you've lived a, the most progressive life, or I don't even like using that word, but the most correct, path that you can take, that the minute that someone frames it in another way, you don't actually even have to do anything. No. But the minute that someone frames it in another way, there's such a chip on the shoulder where it's like, I'm looking for the thing to attack. So all of that goodwill, I don't even need to do any baseline investigation. That's just out the window because I've got this already on my mind. My assumption is that you are a culture vulture, and that because you're a white person in the downtown east side, gentrifying the space, which that's not what it was. It's not a fucking Starbucks. It's a speakeasy that's going against the government, like doing unregulated shows for people of color and rap and all of these things. It's like, this is literally the thing that you're saying needs to happen.
And
in
they're
the
at
city.
home, like on their phone.
But because of the presenter of it, then you have this perception. And my favorite thing was to be able to see when that perception didn't match what their expectations were, or when that perception was thwarted, and they saw that they were wrong, there was no resolve. I never had a single person that had ever said anything to me go, you know what? I'm sorry. I was wrong about that. To this day, I've never had someone go, I sent you a death threat, not knowing who you were, what your name was, anything about you. But I said I'm going to come kill you, or that you should go kill yourself because your venue burned down and someone else started a GoFundMe for you. The strangest, like, out of all your energy.
You're like, do you know who I am? I started People of Comedy. I'll have you know. I started Wonton Comedy.
When you go and you see the next week, there's like some chick's dog that's got $14,000 in funds that have been fundraised off a GoFundMe that Pickles needs a surgery, and you're like, okay, so no one gives a fuck about Pickles, like getting all that
Cancel
money and
Pickles.
get it, but like, you know, I'm the problem here because
Yeah.
I want to, you know,
'Cause you're
like,
white.
have a good vibe. Like, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense. And no one ever said I'm sorry. And they don't need to. But to see that reaction of people that I knew, because there was just this vibe where it was like, you know, if everyone at the function's vibe is love and one person's vibe is not, it's felt because the baseline is love. So when your vibe isn't that and they get up and they see after that and they storm off because it wasn't that, it's like, that shows more about your character than anything else could
speaks
ever.
Volumes.
It speaks
those
so
people
much
will
volumes.
take it to the grave, man.
Yeah,
You
and that's
know?
the thing too, where I go like that cycle. I've seen that now happen so many times now in this city, where we have a really like retribution angle of like, there's a lot of like vitriol in the city because so many people don't do anything. It's that kind of thing that I was saying before of like, I don't need to puff my chest out when you're actually doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
You have a confidence, not an ego.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
confidence settles in where ego, when you don't have confidence, takes hold. So it was like, if you're not doing the actual thing or actually organizing these things, then yeah, like when you see somebody that is, it becomes insulting to you because
Yep.
you actually have to kind of assess your own behavior and your own prejudice.
Yeah.
Which, you know, not to use that word lightly, but it is in a weird way. It is like you're kind of having to assess your own prejudging, that in its root of the word. That's what that is. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
It's
no,
not a
you're
victim.
exactly
I'm in
right.
no way a victim of anything with it other than a shitty fire, I guess. But like, it wasn't like, oh, I feel bad as a way. No, none of that. It was just like, you are just going about this in a really incorrect way. And it was nice to see. Like, I'll always remember, because I've seen her around at other things and just kind of giving a little smile where like she got up when things were really nice at the cipher and got up and kind of stormed out. I'm like, yeah, I know who you are, because you told me to kill myself when I wanted to kill myself. I'll never forget your face.
Yeah,
I'll never
yeah.
forget your face.
Yeah.
I can block you, and I blocked everyone because
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need this right now. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't need it at the
Yeah.
time, and I was already low, man. You don't need to make me lower. That's the thing. Anytime like negativity comes my way, I always kind of smirk because I'm like, oh man, if you just knew what was going on in my head, you'd know like nothing you can say is ever as evil or bad as what I say to myself, like, or what I'm already
Yeah.
like where I'm already at, like
Yeah.
on the regular. So
Yeah.
it's like I got a tough skin with that kind of shit, like especially after that, an even tougher skin.
Yeah.
'Cause-
For sure, yeah, and it's like you're you know, it's like what we were talking about before, where you don't, like, we don't tokenize our inclusivity,
Yeah,
right? Like, we
100%.
don't put it out there as like it's like a people of color show, because there's not to diss
No,
your
no, 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 no,
not to diss your show at all, but we don't, you know, we never have to tokenize it, and
Yeah.
you don't have to tokenize it either, because it's just
What
part
it
of what
is.
we do. Like,
Yeah.
it's natural to what we do. It's organic. There always is that inclusivity. There always
Yeah.
is a trans rapper that I'm not remembering that was on the microphone or whatever.
because it's not a big deal to
Yeah.
you, so you cannot remember it. That's
Yeah.
the thing. That's
Yeah.
like the thing that needs. It's just another rapper at the show. It's just another dope MC, and that's so important about the dialogue. And and in speaking with most people, that the big common denominator that I notice with all these things, where you talk to somebody who, you know, like has actually grown up in poverty or actually grown up in struggle, who is, you know, a person of color, they don't want to be tokenized in that way. They don't
No.
fuck with those events.
No.
They don't fuck with that crowd, because by and large, it is people from the West End, Vancouver, or like the nice part of Surrey, or it's in like these like bougie neighborhoods where then it's kind of this like adoption in this like weird way of like,
Yeah.
we're gonna now make this thing because we got to do. And I don't know, there's dynamics to that, and don't get me wrong, there are some really dope, you know, places that are specific for specific people, and I think that that's great. Like, it would be weird if somebody came into the, you know, like VFL and they were like, you know, like I'm gonna start speaking English, and, you know, like there's just like, there'd be like weird, you know, like there are, I do understand like dedicated spots, but it never seems to be the people that actually like really grew up in anything that was kind of tumultuous, that like loves going to these really like progressive, you know, like, I don't know, that kind of thing is just, I don't know, it's a little strange to me. I noticed that correlation as somebody that like grew up with a single mom in basement suites, like, you know, 2 jobs, like we were never in, you know, the shit of it, but like no one in my family, you know, I got picked up at a trailer park today is like, not that it's like struggling for food stamps, but we're not like in any kind of, you know, McMansion out in fucking, you know, West Vancouver or some bullshit like that, and then like throwing the pity party kind of thing, you know. I think that's just, it's a little different, you know. And,
'cause wasn't that kind of the narrative too that was being like thrown around a little bit? Was
which
like,
is strange when you're like, oh man, if you
that you came from money and that the whole MOTN was like ghost funded by something.
Trust fund kid. I was like, Are you sure about that? Like, it's just definitely not been my experience. I've been rezoned out of like, and not again. It's not to say like I'll never go and sit like victim, but it's just not my experience in life. Like, it's a different experience. Like
for sure, which probably was so weird to have that thrown at you at that time, especially like, you know, just knowing like all of the work that you had done personally to build it up. And I mean, part of that is because like, you know, like you were saying, like at that time you were getting articles written about the space, you were having sold out events, it was becoming more public facing. I think a lot of people probably were hearing about it for the first time and being like, here's this established thing, oh, where did this come from, you know, who's like,
that's true,
who pushed this out into the
with also, and I'm not to like continue talking too much on the like, because it was such a small blip of that whole experience, and I don't want to just like always hark back to it, but it also then it's not as if I wasn't then also making steps to also educate myself in things. I was like, oh, okay, if there are angles of things where I need to be educated, then I do. And talking with people at the ciphers, little smudging, like, you know, people that are actually really educated on the topic and learning things of being like, you know, I had said things in my original statement that were like, people were like, actually, you went too hard on yourself. You're not this. You're not like, this is not colonizing. Like, that's a different term, and this is what that actually means. So there was an actual education process that happened where that was also important. Like, I always think you should be educating, but like, it's not to then say we're gonna do like, you know, before the comedy show, remind everyone like bum everyone out on like there's times for these things. If you're in a government like presentation, great, let's do that. Or if you're at a comedy show, I don't know, like maybe does that need to happen? Because I talk to people and they don't think that you know, the land acknowledgement before the comedy show is the right time to do it. And Indigenous comedians are like, nah, like please don't do that. You know, like I've talked to comedians that are like, please don't make that a thing because it is a weird way to start out a funny thing, because it's not a funny thing, so it's like bumming everyone out right before. Again, it's not to say it should never take place. It's just like there are times and there's places that it makes sense and there's times that don't, and that education comes from actually talking to people, not just fucking reading a Instagram you know, like little slideshow thing, which were all the craze at the time of like, this is how everyone needs to think because somebody got on Canva and made a fucking thing. And you're like, you're not you're not somebody that gets to talk on everyone's behalf. And not to say that the people that I talk to get to speak on everyone's behalf, but I get to make my actions based on the people that I know where their heart are at, and who care about the space and knew what we were doing, and you know, we're able to say, here's where I think you could go and do this, and be able to make some important change, and go, okay, well, I'll do that then, and then go, hey, you really don't need to do that, and I'll go, okay, I won't do that then. You know, you're just trying to figure it out. I'm fucking 20 when I start the thing, right? That's another big thing we're in. All that was like, man, like this is crazy vitriol from like some old heads that have not done a damn thing. And like, if it was fucking, what's his face? Who's your guy? The motel guy.
Roberto?
No, the guy who owns the motel. David. If it was like David Dupree was like, you're a piece of shit, I would be like, all right, fuck, like, you know, like, all right, I fucked up. Or if it was like someone in the mix that was like, I look up to as an organizer, or like space or something in that way, I'd go like, oh damn. But then once I started to realize that as I blocked, when I would look at the accounts, not a single person followed the MOTN at all.
No, I think a lot of that, and it's sad to say this, but it's all just based off of jealousy, right? Like, I think the people of the downtown east side that were frustrated with the fundraiser were mainly frustrated because it wasn't them doing it.
Right.
Like, a lot of the times, like, and that was my biggest question was like, how are you gonna, like, what have you done? Then how are you gonna shit on this movement? Like what have you done?
You know
right?
who
Like,
you know who didn't have anything negative to say to me was the 3 other people that were at the dispersing the day after, because I didn't put it out on social media. I didn't say anything about it, but I was there the next day once we had done the initial gathering of supplies. Because right afterwards there was a lot of donations that weren't even being driven from us. There was lots of okay, this fire happened and displaced a lot of people, and there were 3 other people at the dispersion day where it had been organized by some really great people that do that regularly in the downtown east side. And I was looking around and I went, I don't know any of you, and we all got Instagrams, and
nobody
it's
sent you
interesting.
death threats.
No message from anyone with death threats. Interesting. No message from anyone with anything negative, and all of them going, it wasn't even talked about. I didn't even bring up that I was involved. I just wanted to go and help because I felt useless, and I felt like, okay, if I'm going to be useless right now, and I do actually care about some, and this is a caveat, some of the people that lived above me, not all the people, some of them were fucking terrible, it's like any group of people, you get some people in the mix where that guy's really solid, he's always been really nice, and then you get that other person where I'm pretty sure you smeared shit on my door the other day, it's a mix of 50 plus people all up there, you're not gonna find but I was still going and dispersing the materials and trying to find the people that I knew and make sure that they were all good and that they got a little bit extra supplies. We were trying to, and none of those people were there. So then I think it was, that thing of it just kind of made me realize in general, that all of that stuff online really, no matter how big it is, it isn't always, it isn't a really good, accurate representation of the love and positivity, and what we do with it being such a in-person model of our art and expression is always a good determination of how much love is actually there, because we're in an actionable art space. Whereas I think a lot of times when people are in the fine arts or in the painting, drawing, in that kind of they have to get it at galleries, and there's 20 people that show up, but one of them is going to pay them $30,000 for the painting, and that's a whole different kind of elite scene. Whereas what we do in comedy and in hip hop is a working man's art form. It's a working man's trade. So that love can only really be identified directly by the in-person action. If you were to base the success of Icon solely off of social media and YouTube interaction, it pales in comparison, and not to undermine it, but it pales in comparison to the actual input that it has, right? So in on the positive side, on the negative side, it helped me understand that any negative that comes your way with that is a lot of smoke and mirror, but it also kind of affirmed or at least opened my eyes to the idea that when you get it on the positive side on social media, that still also then doesn't necessarily translate to what is the actual meat of it, which is what our mediums are, which is the in-person community. If you're not selling tickets at the club can't operate. That's the reflection of the success, not necessarily how many likes I'm getting on the post. Now that's a means to an end to get more people to the thing, and it's a mode of function, but it is not it can't be the result. What you guys have, which I've learned over the past 6 months that I didn't realize what was so necessary, was because you guys work in a team space, you guys work all together, and you have that unrelenting drive from Riley that always is oh, go, 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 go. That's always on his brain. But what that also does by having that support system is that when I know there's been times where you have been I'm overworked right now. I need to take a step back from things, and you've taken a step back for a little while, and then you've regained your step and been okay, now I can come back and be the and be able to do that. Whereas when I was just on my own for 2.5 years, just doing this night after night, and all of my money is based around whether that that stress that came with it, and not having anyone to lean on in that way other than a good bartender, like when, Saber T came and he started on bar, it was like, a little bit of a support here so that I can, I don't have to always be getting, they're doing the liquor runs, or even just something as like, I have a bad back, somebody to help me carry up these stairs, or just the physical labor of it all, having that support system. I've realized over the past 6 months is like, I actually like this job. I actually like the product. I actually like what I'm doing. When I'm doing all of the things at once, I can't, I don't have the means, I don't have the ability to do that. But if if this is to continue, it needs that collaboration, because beyond just, that element, there's also the, hey, I need to take a step back for a little while. Can you man the ship?
Well, this guy wasn't even going to show up today.
You didn't think you weren't going to come for me?
I'll come for you.
All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching Icon Hip Hop. I go by Soul. You are?
Trewth, the rapper.
I'm Austin. You can follow at the MOTN, and come. We got a Wasp Nest and the Weekly, and shows every Thursday and Saturday.
And the Wonton.
One time. Comedy.
Peace.
Peace.
I feel bad. I'm pretty sure there is a wonton comedy. They are catching some strays.
They got 30
I feel bad.
in that podcast.